Welcome to today's screencast. This one is on preparation for our test on Monday or Tuesday. So what I've got is I've got a question for you, or a couple of questions, and then I will demonstrate, and then I'll leave some questions for you to do. So on the first one, what we've got is 5x plus 2 equals 17. And what we're looking to find the value of x. So remember, on these questions, we're using the opposite or the inverse operations. So I've got plus 2, so I would minus 2 from both sides. And if I minus 2, I would end up having 5x still on this side. 17 minus 2 gives me 15. And then I've got 5 times x. So what's the opposite of times? That's right, it's divide by 5 and divide by 5. And we end up with x equaling 3. Okay, so you can see what I've done. I've used inverse operations. I've done one thing at a time to find our answer. Okay, so what I would like you to do now is you can pause the video now and give these next two questions a go, and only come back once you've finished. So hopefully you've had some time to do those. So I'm using inverse operations, so I'm going to plus 2 to both sides. And what that's going to do is give me 3x equals 15. And then I've got 3 timesing by x. So what's the opposite of times? It's divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. And I end up with x equaling 5. On the one below, again, I've got the opposite. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. That's going to give me 5x equals 25. And the opposite of times is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And x equals 5. Because 25 divided by 5 gives me 5. Right, next group of questions. So I'm going to do these ones. This time, before we go through into this type, we have to multiply out of the brackets for a start. So we have to expand. So just remember, everything inside this bracket is going to be multiplied by the number outside. So I'm going to say, what's 5 times 2x? That's 10x. And what's 5 times 5? And that's plus 25. And now you've got a question that looks very similar to the original question we had up here. So remember, I'm going to use inverse operations to answer these questions. So I've got plus 25, so I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides. If I do that, I'll have 10x on this side, and I'll have 50 on this side. And then I've got 10 times x. So what's the opposite of times? It's divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 10. X equals 5. All right, so that's my go. Now it's time for your go. So pause the video, give these a go, and come back and see if you've got them right. First things first, let's multiply out of the brackets. So I've got 2 times 3x gives me 6x. And 2 times 10 gives me 20. All right, so we're going quite well. We're going to subtract 20 away from both sides, and I'm left with 6x equals 60. Divide both sides by 6, and I end up with x equaling 10. On the next one, same thing. Times both things inside the bracket by the number outside the bracket. So I've got 4x plus 20 equals 45. I'm going to subtract away 20 from both sides. And I'm going to leave with 4x equals 25. And this is a tough one. I'm going to divide both sides by 4, which is not ideal. And we're going to equal 25 divided by 4. All right. I don't have a calculator on me. If I did have a calculator, I could work that out. The ones in your test, we would like to think would be a whole number there. Okay, so the next ones, we're getting really, really close to the end of this section, is when we've got x's on both sides. So all we're going to do is we're going to move it round so that we have x's on one side and numbers on the other. And we're always going to try and stay in the positives. So the first thing that I can do is I can subtract away 2x from this side. And remember, whatever I do to one side, I've got to do to the other. So if I rewrite now, I've got 4x, take away 2x, which gives me 2x. I've still got my plus 2, and that's going to equal the 6, because this is gone now, isn't it? And now, just like the other questions, we've got a two-step equation. So I'm going to subtract by 2 both sides, and that gives me 2x equals 4. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and that's going to give me x equals 2. So remember, if you're struggling with these, you can always rewind or skip back and watch what I did there again. Remember, the goal is to always remain in the positives. So I wouldn't have taken away 4x from both sides because it would have given me a negative number, which I don't really want. So give this next one a go. See if you can do it. I'll give you a little tip. Maybe take away 2x from both sides to start. Okay, so as I said, take 2x away from both sides, and I'm left over here with 5 equals x minus 20. I do the opposite, which is plus 20 to both sides, and that will give me x equaling 25. So hopefully you're finding these all okay. Just remember that, as you can see, pretty much we always come back to trying to get the question down to something that was manageable, that we can do really, really well. And all of these questions, it's just taken an extra step to get there, hasn't it? But it's pretty much the same skills throughout. There is one more question for you to do, so pause the video here, give this one a go and see if you've got it right. Okay, so it's a little bit tricky, but I've got a minus x, so I can plus x to both sides. And that's going to give me 6x plus 10 equals 70. And then I can subtract away 10 from both sides, and I've got 6x equals 60. And then we're going to divide both sides by 6. And that gives me an answer of x equaling 10. Okay, so we've done those now. Now hopefully we've got some nice, easy questions for you. So shade each of the shapes by the fractions given. So I'm going to shade 1/3 of this. So remember, I've got, at the moment, I've got 3/3. And I just want to shade in one of those. So I'm just going to shade in one like that. On this one, you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And I want to shade in just one. So I'm going to shade in one there. So you can see here, I shaded in 1/3, 1/4. Okay? So just remember, if like the questions you're going to do, you might have more things to shade in. But just remember that you can cancel things down or you can scale things up. So give this next one a go. You have to shade in 3/4 of that shape. Okay, a little bit trickier, but hopefully you'll work out what to do. You might have noticed that we don't just have, let's just imagine we don't have any of this. Okay, we don't just have this here. And that would have been easy, wouldn't it? Because you would have just shaded in 3/4. But we do have all of these. So we've just got to make sure, again, we shade in 3/4, we shade in 3/4, we shade in 3/4, and we shade in 3/4. And then we've got our answer that we need. Okay, 3 out of 4 squares are shaded in. Hopefully you got that one correct. Here goes one more for you. You have to shade in 3/5 of the shape. So again, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares, and I've got to shade in 3/5. All right, I've got to shade in 3/5, and I've got to shade in 3/5, and that's what we do for those ones. So now we're simplifying fractions. So we're trying to make these fractions into the smallest amount that we can. So for the first one, I have to find a number that goes into both. For me, that's going to be 2. I often halve them for a start. You'll find that most things either go into 2, 3, or possibly 5. Okay, so we just try and go for one of those numbers for a start. So if I divide 2 by 2, I get 1. If I divide 4 by 2, I get 2. And that would be my simplified fraction. On this one, I can't halve them, because if I halve 9, it would be 4.5. So that's not going to work. So on these ones, I'm going to divide them both by 3. So how many 3's go into 6? That's 2. How many 3's go into 9? That's 3. And it can't be taken down any further than that. This one, I'm going to start by halving them because I know that 8 can be halved and so can 6. So what's half of 6? That's 3. What's half of 8? That's 4. Okay, and that's as low as it will go. So there you go. My ones are really simple. I can't remember your ones, but I'm sure that they will be simple. Just remember, you might have to do it twice. If you halve them, you might have to do it again, but we'll give them a go. So here we go. Cancel these fractions down to their simplest form. And just remember, a good place to start might be to halve for a start. Okay, so let's have a little go at these ones. Now the first one's quite hard because it's not that easy to scale down. So I'm going to leave that one for now. And I'm going to focus on these two. So I know that 18 can be divided by 2, and I know that 24 can be divided by 2. So I've got 18 divided by 2 is going to be 9, and 24 divided by 2 is going to be 12. But I look at that and say, okay, can that be cancelled down any further? I can't divide them by 2, but I can divide them by 3. And if I do that, then I'm going to have 9 divided by 3 is 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So that's the answer to that one. On this one, again, I know that they can be divided by 2. So 24 divided by 2 gives me 12. And 80 divided by 2 gives me 40. And I look at that and say, okay, that can definitely be divided by 2 again. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. And 40 divided by 2 is 20. And I'll look at that and say, okay, that can definitely be divided by 2 again. So I've got 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 20 divided by 2 is 10. And now I have finished. For this one, what are they going to be divisible by? So can we divide 35 by 2? And the answer is no. Can we divide 35 by 3? And the answer is no. So what about 4 or 5? So we're getting to the point now where not much goes into 35 if we think about it. But 7 does go in. Okay, so we can divide 35 by 7 and we can divide 14 by 7. So if we look at that, we'll say that 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 35 divided by 7 is going to be, it's going to be 5. Yeah, because we've got 7, 14, 21, 28, and 35. And we can see they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so 5 goes in there. So you can see there that we've got 2/5. That was really, really quite difficult. So I understand if you struggle with that one, but that's kind of what we need to do. Most of them go into 2s, 3s, or 5s, but on that one, it went into 7s. Okay, so we're going to change these into improper fractions, from improper fractions to mixed numbers. So remember, we want to have a whole number with a fraction next to it. And remember how we do that. Very simply, we have how many 3's go into 7? 2, remainder 1. So we have 2 and we have 1/3. On this one, how many 5's go into 7? Okay, well we have 1, remainder 2. So therefore we have 1 and 2/5. On the next one, how many 2's go into 5? We have 2 2's go into 5, remainder 1. So that's 2 and 1/2. And last but not least, how many 7's go into 8? So we're dividing by 8. We've got 1, remainder 1. So that would be 1 and 1/7. I'm sure that you did those ones really, really well. Here goes 2 for you. Work those ones out, please. You're turning those improper fractions into mixed numbers. Okay, so how many 10's go into 13? 1, remainder 3. because 1 times 10 is 10, but I need to get it to 13, remainder 3. So that'd be 1 3/10. Now we've got how many 6's go into 13. 2, remainder 1. 2 times 6 is 12, but I've got to get to 13, so that would be remainder 1. So 2 1/6. I'm sure you've done really, really well on those. Good work. Now we're going to go the opposite way, aren't we? We're going to go the opposite way. So make sure that as we go through, you just take your time to think about what they are for a start. So remember what 2 wholes would be when we talk about fifths. It would be 5/5 plus 5/5 plus and then 1/5. So 5/5, that's 1 whole and 1/5. So that's our 2 1/5. So what we do is we can say 5 plus 5 plus 1. So that would give us 11/5. But the way that we do it is we say 2 times 5 plus 1. And that gives us the 11 over 5. Just remember what this would be. That would be 2 2's plus 2 2's, or 2 halves, plus 2 over 2. That would be my 3 plus 1 half. So I'd add all these up, 2, 4, 6, 7, 7 halves. And that's because we say 3 times 2 plus the 1. All right, 3 times 2 plus the 1. Okay, on this one, we would have 4 fourths. That gives us our 1 plus 3 fourths. So we'd have 7 fourths. So we'd have 1 times 4 plus 3. And the last one, I'm not going to do this one longhand, I'm just going to do it shorthand. So we'd have 3 times 3, which is 9, plus 2, which is 11/3. So I want you now to give these next 2 a go, only coming back when you've finished. So hopefully you've done that now. We would have had 2 times 7 plus the 4. So 2 times 7 is 14, plus the 4, that's 18/7. And then we've got 1 times 3 plus the 1. So 1 times 3 is 3, plus the 1, that's 4/3. Okay, there we go. It's time to add some fractions. Now I've picked some harder ones for you. So I thought that we could just go straight to the hard ones, make sure you can cover these ones, and then everything else is spot on. So on these ones, just remember, we have to make the bottom number the same. At the moment, we can't add them because they're not, we can't compare them. They're different sizes. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make my bottom number on this 10, because 5 times 2 is 10. So for both of them, I'm going to make my bottom number 10. How did I make 5 into 10? I times it by 2. So I have to times this whole side of the fraction, or this whole fraction by 2. That gives me 4. How did I make 2 into 10? I times it by 5. So I've got to times the whole fraction by 5. And that gives me 5/10. So I now add those now, and I have 9/10 as my answer. On this one, I'm going to make my bottom number 14, because if I times 2 by 7, I get 14. How did I get 7 to 14? I times it by 2. How did I get 2 to 14? I times it by 7. And I end up with 4/7. And if we add those through, we're going to end up with 11/14. Now just remember, in your test you might have some subtraction questions, but it's the same process, but rather than adding, we would subtract the tops. Give these next ones a go, please. I'm sure you'll do great. On this one here, we don't need to convert both, but of course you can if you want. Okay, so for this one, I could easily make 2 into 4 by timesing it by 2. So I don't need to do any more than that, because I can make both sides into 4. All right, so we'd end up with that now, wouldn't we? We'd have 3/4, this stays the same, plus 2/4. Now, if you made it into 8ths, then you're probably going to have to cancel it down. But let's not worry about that too much now. So my answer for that one would have been 5/4, Or, if we wanted to convert it, we could have said 1 and 1/4. On this one, I could have easily turned this side into 9 by timesing this side of this fraction by 3. So that's going to give me 5/9 plus 6/9. And if I add them together, I get 11/9, or I could convert that into 1 and 2/9. Right? Brilliant. All right, it's time for the times now. So let's just go through what we've got left, if you're wondering. We've got some times, we've got some divides, and then we've got some angles, and then we are done. All right, so not long to go. Not long to go. Okie dokie, let's go through these ones. So just remember, I can rewrite my fraction like this. And I can say, do any of these cancel each other out? Well, they don't. So 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 5 is 10. So my answer is that. Remember, I can rewrite as 1 times 3 and 2 times 4. And I look at it and say, do any of these cancel each other out? And they don't. So I just times them through. And I have 3/8, all right? But you might find that some of these numbers do cancel each other out. So just remember that as we go through. Give these ones a go, please. You've got 3 questions there. Give them a go. A little tip would be, I can definitely see some cancelling out here. Okay, so make sure we cancel those out as we go. Hopefully you've had a chance to do all those now. So remember, I rewrite. And I say, okay, I can definitely cancel this down a little bit. So how many 2's go into 4? 2. All right. So now on this one, I've got 3 on the top and 14 on the bottom. Because 7 times 2 is 14. On this one, when I rewrite, I can clearly see that these can cancel each other out. So how many 5's go into 10? That would be 2. So my answer for this one is going to be 1/14. And on the next one, let's have a look when we rewrite. And we can see that I can definitely cancel out these. So how many 2's go into 12? That would be 6. So my answer would be 7, and 3 times 6 gives me 18. So 7/18. And if we cancel down as we go, we actually don't need to cancel down at the end. Okay? Now remember this one. I'll give you a little helping hand. We have KFC. Okay? And I will do these first 2 for you. Remember, we keep the first fraction, we flip the second fraction, and we change the symbol. So now I can rewrite that like that, and none of these cancel each other out, so I'd be left with 3/10. The next one, we keep, we flip, and we change. And again, I can rewrite. And these don't cancel each other out, so I'd have 15/16. So, keep, flip, change. KFC. Give these next 2 a go, please, and come back when you think you got it right. Okay, so I'm going to keep, I'm going to flip, and I'm going to change. And we can't cancel each other out, so that'd be 20/18. 20/18. Next one, we have keep, we have flip, and we have change. So I look, they don't cancel each other out, so we're going to have quite a big one now. We might have to go old school on this if we had to. We could have done our lattice method. How many? 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. Then we have 3, and we have 1. Okay, so just remember, you all know this anyway, but I'd have 143, and then we can do the same thing, the lattice method, for our 20/8 And we can see there that we've got 160 there. Okay? So really, really well done if you got those two right. So for the next ones, what I have to do is I have to find the angle of x and say y. So I'm going to show you these two now. So if we look at these, we've got one line and a parallel line, or two parallel lines. So we've got two parallel lines and a line cutting through it. If we've got that, remember that this position can be classed as bottom right. So bottom right will be the same on both sets of angles. So my answer would be 112 degrees. Why? Because this angle is corresponding. Okay? This angle is corresponding to the angle above because it's found in the same location. Now, remember when we're doing these, that what would this angle here be? It would be 75 degrees. Yeah? It'd be 75 because it's vertically opposite. So that means that this angle here will also be 75 degrees. So we can say it's 75 degrees. But why? Yes, it is corresponding to this one, but what is it to this one? It is alternate. Okay, so this is the alternate angle. It's worth the same amount, but it's found on the other side in a different location. This is bottom right, this is top right, but we can understand why it's the same value, hopefully. So give these next ones a go. Quite difficult in reality, but what I would say to you is, although there's an additional line, the rules stay the same. So what would they be and why? Okay, so top tip. This is an acute angle, isn't it? This is an acute angle. This is an obtuse angle, so they're not going to be the same. So if you said these are 75, you would have been incorrect. But what would that angle there be? Okay, what would this angle here be? We've got a straight line. What is a straight line worth? It's worth 180. So we know that this missing angle plus this angle, okay, is going to give us this. So what would I have to add to 74 to get to 180? Yeah, I'd have to add 106. So this angle here would be 106, which means that this angle here is going to be 106. Yeah, and so will this angle here, 106. Why? Why are they? Because we call this co-interior angles. They are co-interior angles. Okay? Now, this one over here, we can say that this is 1, 2, 3, because this group of angles is the same as this group of angles. It's found in the same location, so it's 1, 2, 3, and it's corresponding. And what's this one going to be? Remember, this is obtuse, this is acute, and we really want to find this angle here. And there we have a straight line again, don't we? So we've got 180, and in reality, all we need to do is we need to take away. Let's give this angle, let's call this angle B. So we would have 180 equals 110 plus B. Now, how do we work that out? We take away 110 from both sides, and we end up with B equaling 70. So B would equal 70. That would be there, which means that Y would equal 70 as well, because that would be the corresponding angle to that one. But because of that, we call that one co-interior as well. Co-interior. So we've got the last little bit now to finish off. These angles and triangles. Remember the fact that we know that all the interior angles equal 180 degrees. So that will help us to work out our missing values. So the way we do it for the first one is, well, what would this angle here be? What would the inside be? Remember, both of them together, whatever this is plus this is going to give me 180. So if I added 55, yeah, to 125, that would give me that. So now I've got 80 and 55, yeah, and x. And all of those together are going to give us 180 degrees. So what do I do? Can you remember I've got 180, and I know that 80 plus 55 plus x is going to give me 180. All right? So 180, if I add my like terms together, I have 80 plus 55. That's going to give me 135. And what do I do to this? I subtract away 135 to both sides. Okay, and as you can see there, I would have, if I did that, 45 left. Okay, 45 left. So x is going to equal 45. On this one, I remember I need to find this angle here. Okay, how would I work that out? I know that 180 plus 90, because I've got a 90-degree angle here. Sorry, that is wrong. 180 equals 90 plus 68. Okay, because I know that, and I don't know this one. So let's just call this one y. So plus y. We know that all of those three angles added together will give us 180. So I take my 90 and I take my 68 and I add them together to give me 158 plus y. And what do? I just minus away 158 to both sides. And what is 180 take away 158? It's going to give me 22. So that means that this will be 22, but I know that we have a straight line here, and that's going to give me 180, straight line. What do I have to do to 22 to get it to 180? I have to add 158 to do that. Okay, so those are those ones done. What I'd like you to do is just give this last one a go. I'll give you a little bit of a helping hint. Remember what we've got here. We've got an isosceles triangle, which means that this angle and this angle are going to be the same. They're going to be the same. So try and work out those ones first, and then what you'll have is you'll have this angle, you'll have that angle, and you'll have half of this angle. And we should know what this angle will be because we're going to use the skills we've just done to do that. All right, everyone, give it a go and see if you can get it right. It's quite a tough question, that's for sure. Okay, so we know this bottom angle, we'll call it y, is going to be the same down here. So we know that these three angles are going to give us 180 degrees. So in reality, I've got 50 plus y, because we know they're going to be the same value. So if I do that, I'm going to have 180 equals 50, and I'm going to collect the like terms, which is 2y. Just think about what we've done all before. I subtract away 50 from both sides, and I end up with 130 equals 2y. How do I make it just y? I divide both sides by 2, and I end up with 65 equals y. Okay, so that means that y equals 65. So that means that this angle up here is going to be 65. Okay, so now what I've got is I've got to have these three angles. So again, I know that all of these interior angles equal 180. So that would be 50 plus 31 plus 65 plus x, which we don't know. We add all of these up together. So 50 and 31. Let's do that first. So I have 180 equals 81 plus 65 plus x. And then the next one is I add those two up. So I have, and we might have to old school this out. Okay. So I've got 6 and I've got 14. So I have 1, 4, 6. And plus x, Remember what I do now? I subtract away 146 from both sides. And I end up with 34, which equals x. So we have 34 there. All right, tough question that, really tough question, but hopefully you got some of it correct. Remember, it's not about getting everything correct. It's just about getting some of it correct. And if you just worked out the answer to 65 there, then you'd be well on your way to getting them correct. So that's the end of today's preparation for the test. Now, I know some of that would be quite difficult, but I want you to really push yourselves. And remember, it's not about getting everything right. It's about getting enough of it right, to make yourself feel confident. Okay? So good luck. Make sure that you do as much as you can, and I will see you on Monday.